Hello, I'm R.L. King, and welcome to my new show. Last year I've been asked by both friends and fans alike to do a top 10 list of the best and worst movies of last year. Unfortunately, by January, I hadn't seen enough films to do top 10 lists. This year I decided to rectify that by seeing all of the major releases this year. All of them. All of them. All of them. By my count, that's around 135 films, assuming no limited releases become wide releases, and no wide releases get pushed to next year. Last night, I decided that if I was going to watch all of these movies, then I should probably at least try to put out a short review of each of them. However, as I had already seen 30 movies, I wasn't quite sure where to start. This is where my hat comes in. I have written down the title of each movie I have seen this year on a slip of paper. I folded that paper in half and put it inside my hat. Now, at the end of every episode, I will pull one out to decide what I'm reviewing next. However, what I drew first just happened to be the most recent movie that came out this year. The Amazing Spider-Man. Peter Parker is a high school nerd who lost his parents at a young age and is now being raised by his Uncle Ben and Aunt May. While exploring his father's shady past, he finds his dad's research partner, Dr. Curtis Connors, working on ways to splice human and animal DNA. One of the spiders being tested on bites Peter and gives him spider-like abilities, while Dr. Connors uses lizard DNA in the hopes that he'll grow back his missing arm. Unfortunately, it turns into a giant lizard monster who terrorizes New York City. As Spider-Man, Peter Parker has to deal with the challenges of his everyday life while also trying to stop the lizard and learning what it means to truly be a hero. Now, the first question on everyone's mind is, how does this movie compare to the Sam Raimi films? Personally, I really enjoyed the first two Spider-Man films. Sure, they were campy and silly, but there was a certain charm to them, and they held a certain amount of dignity. That being said, Tobey Maguire was a terrible Peter Parker. He didn't come across as very intelligent, he barely cracked a joke in any fight he was in, and most importantly, Peter Parker's most admirable trait is how he manages to stay lighthearted in the face of adversity, which Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker never did. Tobey Maguire does a fantastic job with certain roles, but Spider-Man isn't one of them. Then we get to the third movie. Let's just pretend that never happened. The Amazing Spider-Man took a much different route than the original trilogy. This one took the concepts from Spider-Man's origin story and modernized them, giving a familiar feel while not ripping off the Raimi movie. Peter Parker isn't a stereotypical nerd. He's a quiet loner who enjoys science and math, which is pretty much most of the really big nerds I knew in high school. In addition to modernizing the origin story and characters, the cast has also received a major upgrade from the Raimi films. Andrew Garfield is a fantastic actor with so much charisma and talent that I could see him carrying the mantle of Spider-Man until he looks too old to look the part. Emma Stone plays Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker's love interest, who has a lot of chemistry with Andrew Garfield, but also gave a unique personality and sense of humor to a role. I've also heard some complaints that Emma Stone doesn't really look like the bookish nerd who no guy would really go after, but, this is the Gwen in the comics. You want to tell me she's a bookish nerd who no guy would go after? I don't think so. Rhys Ifans and Dennis Leary also do great in their own respective roles. Both of them are incredibly well known for being amazingly talented people, so I doubt I'm shocking any of you there. The biggest improvement to me, though, even more so than Andrew Garfield replacing Tobey Maguire, are the two actors playing Aunt May and Uncle Ben. Sally Field and Martin Sheen bring so much heart and character to these two that I wanted to take them home to be a part of my family by the end of it. Uncle Ben's death has genuine weight to it, even though I already knew it was coming. If that's not an accomplishment, I don't know what is. While the acting and writing of the film were outstanding, the action left something to be desired. This was director Mark Webb's first action movie, and it kinda shows, as several of the action scenes are shot too close to see what's going on, and some of the fight choreography is a bit rough. He still manages to bring a really satisfying fight at the climax, though, between Spider-Man and the Lizard, which is more than certain other Marvel movies can say, so I look forward to seeing him improve throughout his career. If there was anything that really dragged this movie down for me, it was that the pacing of the last half of the movie felt very rushed. Many things happened and there wasn't much build-up to them. It feels like there's a large chunk of the third act left on the cutting room floor somewhere, and I really hope that's put on the DVD release. Now, to answer that question, is this movie better than the Raimi films? Well, yes and no. While I enjoyed this film far more than the first movie and that thing I said we wouldn't talk about, I still feel that Spider-Man 2 is the superior film. This mostly stems from the fact that I feel 2's narrative had a more even flow, and Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus was almost too perfect to put into words. Combine this with the fact that the movie basically started the superhero film wave we have today, and The Amazing Spider-Man has a pretty large hurdle to jump. However, since I still like this more than the first movie, I get to make this joke. This is Spider-Man. This is The Amazing Spider-Man. This is okay Spider-Man. This one is amazing! Now, with that review out of the way, it is time to pull the next movie I'll review out of this hat. Shake them up a little bit. Nice and mixed. Okay. Let's go with this one.